Welcome back. Let's talk Broncos. Bree Mace to Zach Seegers, Joey Richards. Today we got a loaded show for you. We're obviously approaching training camp. You've got some voluntary and now mandatory minicamp involvement here for the Denver Broncos, and we're going to be talking about our most anticipated, what we're most excited for, the battles that'll be going on during training camp. But honestly, guys, I think we need to start wagering right now which one of the LTB members are going to get into a tiff at training camp. Depending on my mood and what happens the day prior or that morning of, it could be me and Zach brawling out there. Put your money where you think they fit. Super chats are open. Let's go LTB. Cody Daly, welcome. First one to be in the chat. Cody, that means you get to pick who's the winner of this brawl when we get out there on the berm.
Zach, we want to see the, we see all the Twitter beefs online. Let us know what actually happens at training camp, please. People are interested. I've personally had feedback. We want to hear about the radio producers throwing down. We want to hear about all of it. That's what the people are telling me, at least. So let us know on your threads.
Yeah. Lots of egos, lots of people going wild out there. It's funny now that the same year that I stopped, getting the fancy shaded spots, they took it away from the media too. So now we're all baking on the berm together and can hang out. And I don't have to just get in fights with you two, which, by the way, like if we're predicting who's getting in fights, it's me with the both of y'all. But I don't have to just get in fights with you two. I can now get in fights with any and everyone.
I don't think the concrete separation barrier is going to keep those at bay this year, especially if there's no tents going on. Listen, guys, it gets warm out there. The sun is not your friend. Stay hydrated. Joey will be under an umbrella.
No, I will not be there. Let's get this straight. I might be on an umbrella twice. The rest of those days, it's a great time. Hey, follow Zach Seegers online. He's great account. Does all of this. The good stuff at training camp. Me? No, not going to be there whatsoever. Said a million times that hill is the death. And everything about Broncos training camp, the sun, and no, not there. Sorry.
Even worse than I think the fighting last year was the guy who tried to feverishly hand a resume to Broncos PR. That was just like an absolute crazy person. They're like, "Oh no, thank you, sir. It's okay. You don't really hand that to me." And he was like, "No, just please take it. I know you won't look at it, but just take it." That was a lot.
You always see some interesting thing. Paul, welcome. Cal's in the chat as well. Lane, Cody. That means we can get started. Everyone's here. Guys, I know the most anticipated and the most excited for are different conversations, right? So let's kind of outline as we're talking about most excitement for. Maybe it's not the top of everyone's mind. Maybe the punter battle is not what everyone wants to hear about. But you're going to want to follow Zach_Seegers again for that thread. Happens daily. Cal's leaving for ice. He's got a sunburn. Sorry, Cal. Try being less pale. All right. Can't wait to see what the comments look like on that one. I'm going to start it off here, and I'm going to throw it to you guys because I want to talk about the trenches here for a second. I know I bring it up almost every single show, but the center battle relies solely on what happens at quarterback. And that's why I think it's so important, because if you're really relying on who's going to be the starting center with who your quarterback is going to be, I've got questions. I've got a big question mark surrounding who's going to be the starting center, because there seems to be a lot of anticipation that Alex Forsyth seems to be the shoe-in. Luke Wattenberg definitely didn't have what it takes in his first go around. You've got a rookie obviously coming in, and we'll talk about him as well. I don't want to butcher the last name right now. I'm not feeling too confident in myself, but obviously Sam Mustipher is in the battle. Again, if you also, I just want to point out, Zach, when I toss this over to you, can you go ahead and highlight the article that you just put out on letstalkbroncos.com? Go.
Of course. Thank you. Yeah, I wrote about this center battle. One of my top picks in terms of what I thought was the most important. And I agree with you. Like I think it's at least going to have a big impact on, this quarterback's development. It's, you need the center to, I think, help the rookie get the protection set some, and then also just keep pressure out of his face. And it could be really ugly. I think there's a chance that Sam Mustipher is the best center on this team. He's the one that's played the most by far. The stat I had in my article is he's got like well over 2,000 snaps. and Wattenberg and Forsyth combined have like 400-ish in terms of like snaps at center in the NFL. So there's just a huge gap in experience there that I don't think anyone should be counting Mustafa out of this. The problem is Mustafa, while he's played a lot of center each of the last 3 seasons, he's been a bad center at every single stop. 2 years in Chicago, he was really bad. Last year, he played some when Linderbaum was injured, and he was also not good. So if he ends up being the center, I think it's telling. He's a known commodity, and he's not great. Now, he might be better than inexperienced 7th-round pick. Like, I don't think that's far-fetched at all. But yeah, it's very, very troubling to me. I think that could go very bad. Hopefully we see a Forsyth or a Wattenberg win it. Because again, I think Mustafa is this known commodity. We know he's like the 30th best center in the league. And if Forsyth or Wattenberg win it, I'd be optimistic that the center position will at least be a little better than that. But if Mustafa wins it, strap in. It's going to be rough.
Joey, right before you answer, I just want to point out, I think it's one of the biggest missteps for the Broncos over the offseason, not citing a veteran center and allowing Lloyd Cushenberry to leave, and then just sort of leaving it a question mark, considering if the idea here was to go after a rookie quarterback in the draft. And yes, I know the Zach Wilson signing was kind of a prevalent, cautious sign that they didn't quite know they were going to get their guy. But the idea still here is, did they set that path up for success by staying with what they had and losing arguably a pretty good piece there that they had on the roster? I know it would have been overpriced. I know it would have been a little shaky. And then considering the Russell Wilson fallout, probably not even something they could really consider. But could they have gone a cheaper route, filled that gap, and not have it be such a glaring hole? Joey, how much confidence do you have in their path moving forward, and which direction do you think they take?
So them letting Lloyd get the contract he did and hitting the market leads me to, and them not finding a replacement, leads me to believe that they like somebody in house. I really don't know if this is actually a camp battle. I think it's just something we don't really know about. I don't think the Broncos are going in here with a rookie quarterback not liking somebody or not knowing if they like somebody. Here's my thing. All indications point to that being Forsyth. And my little bit of concern, obviously you let Lloyd hit the market and you saved money doing that. But if Forsyth projects out to being a really good player, right? There's a lot of in between there. But if he does, I think his game is very, very similar to the guy we just let go. That's kind of the weird part about it. Why did you let Lloyd go when the player you're going to replace him with is on the trajectory of maybe becoming Lloyd Cushenberry? Like that's just kind of the odd part for me there, and I haven't seen many people talk about that. I think who I want to win, I think he wins. Who I'd want to win, though, and maybe he's just not good enough, but if Luke Wattenberg won this battle, I think he projects long-term better just because of the athleticism and size factor there. So if he won that straight up, I would be pretty ecstatic. I just don't know if he's that quality of football player. I'm just going off the physicals. That's who I would like to win. I think Alex Forsyth is ultimately going to be the better player there, though. So I'll go Forsyth.
Yeah, I think that's a good prediction. I mean, yeah, he definitely seems like the odds-on favorite, but Wattenberg would be nice. He'd help like compound that like power identity they're trying to build. And I agree with you. It seems like I don't think the Broncos would knowingly set their quarterback up for failure by putting him behind a really questionable center. I think they probably do have confidence in, I'd imagine it's Forsyth or maybe it's Wattenberg. Who knows? It wouldn't be the first time a team was wrong about something like this. Mm-hmm. A late round pick and I know you agree with this, but like a late round pick that has never played at all. There's plenty of times where teams have felt confident about those guys and then it goes horribly wrong. Damari Mathis last season, and he had a whole year of playing time under his belt. So I hope it goes well, but this is definitely a spooky one. I think it was a good one to highlight.
Does it make your objections on how the run game is going to be able to flourish with this sort of question mark at center? I mean, once it's established, maybe it'll sort of iron out a path here, but it leads to more questions, I think, than there are answers when it comes to how the offense is going to be able to I guess get off the ground. I know Sean Payton has been working towards a ground and pound. Last year, we were hoping for a massive run game, and kind of didn't see that play out. Now you have even more uncertainty when it comes to the center really establishing what that looks like, and maybe even the cadence of that. So maybe I'm overthinking it here, but do you think that that ties in a little bit to finding out the identity of this offense from the inside out?
Yeah, I do. I think so. The Broncos' run game last year, a lot of it is Javonte Williams and his inefficiency to read holes and make cuts off of that and stuff like that. But a lot of it also was just the inconsistency between the offensive line. It felt like none of them were on the same page at the same time. And this is something when Frankie and I were doing our show earlier, like that's something we definitely looked at was it just feels like one guy's off every single play. One guy. And inserting a rookie or what would be a sophomore center or I guess a third-year center in Wattenberg in there would definitely be concerning. Lloyd, to me, wasn't like a huge help in the run. He was a very headsy football player, and he always made the right read and did the right thing. But is he going to overpower a defender? That really wasn't his game. Now, like Alex Forsythe, he's going to be a sophomore, and I don't really think that's part of his game either. So I do think that it's concerning. Ultimately, though, if I grade the rest of the four as run blockers, I would grade all of them pretty highly. They just need to get on the same page. McGlinchey's a pretty good run blocker, really good run blocker. Quinn Miners is like damn near elite run blocker. Ben Powers is a good run blocker. Garrett Bowles is a good run blocker. They just need to find some consistency there. I wonder how much of that had to do with just first year in Sean's offense. So hopefully it all pulls together this year.
First year in Sean's offense and first year, playing together as a line. Of course, building that chemistry,
right.
so huge.
Right.
All right, that answers my questions. I'm sure I'll have later. I'll revert back to it in the chat if I need to, or possibly in the Discord. Going over to Let's Talk Broncos right now. You can get in contact with all of our social medias, and you can see the latest episodes over there, as well as articles coming out just damn near every day. Zach, I'm going to throw it over to you to give me your highly anticipated or excited for battle here at training camp as we approach the summer months. Guys, it's already a toasty one. Again, bring your umbrellas, sunscreen, sunblock, maybe a visor, some sunglasses, and that weird paste that you put on your nose to make sure your face doesn't get too burnt. Zach, give me your battle to watch out for.
Part of me is very excited for Zach Wilson crashing and burning and me doing some victory laps, but the one I'm most excited for, safety's very close, but for me it's running back. I didn't put it as one of my most important because I think the Broncos are going to come out with a good solution. I agree with what Joey just said about the run blocking ability of this line. And I think the running backs played well last year. I was just pulling this up. Excluding garbage time, they were 9th in the NFL in terms of rushing success rate. The explosive plays were not there. And the fumbles were, so they had like negative explosives, and that overall like brought the run game down to being more average, but down consistency. They were one of the more stable run games in the league, in spite of this offensive line that was still forming chemistry, that was still learning the Sean Payton offense. There was trying to forge this offensive identity. You also had Javonte Williams closer to the injury. You also didn't have Audric Estime. Maybe you lose Samaje Perine, but if you do, it's because, or Jaleel McLaughlin, if you do, it's because Blake Watson beat him out or Audric Estime beat him out. And so I think you'll be getting better play out of there as a whole. So I didn't put it as one of the most important. I think it's just going to work itself out. But man, it's going to be fun to watch. I'm excited. What does Javonte Williams look like? We won't see a lot of contact in camp, but like how explosive does he look? Is the burst there? That some of those questions are going to be more for preseason games though. Audric Estime, what does the rookie look like? This guy, we've hyped him up as maybe the future of this room long term. Does he live up to that billing? Pirine, does he find himself as the odd man out? Jaleel McLaughlin, can he fend off Blake Watson? Or can he expand even upon what he was last year? And then Blake Watson, can he unseat Jaleel McLaughlin? I think it's a really, really fascinating battle in a million different ways. We had Hank on here last week, and he was talking about Blake Watson playing some at receiver. I think that's really interesting. So I don't know. I just this is a battle I'm going to be watching very closely when we're out on the burr.
Yes. Okay, here's the question. Zach, I do have to say this, though. I don't think you're going to get your answers, my brother. I don't think you're going to get your answers. I don't think P. Ryan's going to look good in training camp. I don't think Javonte Williams is going to look good in training camp. And I don't think Audric Estime will look good in training camp. Not because they're not good running backs, but because the training camp setting doesn't do anything for these type of running backs. If I can't run through a guy, why the hell am I watching Audric Estime? That's what he's good at, is running through people. Javonte Williams, same thing. It's Samaje Perine, same thing. I'm not catching much. I doubt, seriously, there's not been one training camp I've been to, guys, rookie season or last year, where Javonte Williams looked good in training camp to me. I remember the reports as a rookie, right, when he had his good season. Everyone was talking about, man, Javonte doesn't look good. Why? Because the training camp setting isn't meant for this type of guy. It's not at all. It's largely, training camp is largely a showcase for athleticism and these smaller guys. Like, that's really what it is. It's hard for offensive linemen or defensive linemen to look good in this. And then if we go back and look at guys who looked good in training camp on the defensive line, who were they? Does anyone remember McTelvin Najim? Okay, let's move on to linebackers. Justin Strenad, what was he good at? Pass coverage? Like, let's just really go through this. Montrell Washington. What's like a common theme here? All these guys are good in a 7-on-7 setting. That's why I just do have to say that. I don't think we're going to find out about these running backs until training camp. Training camp, preseason. Sorry about that.
I'd agree. I think you make some good points. My one thing with like Estime, though, would be the number one thing you brought up about Estime when we talked about, or any Broncos rookie for that matter, when we were talking about our favorite traits in the Q&A show, or the mailbag show rather. You highlighted Audric Estime's vision as the trait you liked most of any rookie in this draft. That's something that I think absolutely pops in training camp. Yes, Javonte Williams, like, physical presence doesn't show up in training camp, and that's part of the reason his training camp performances have been so lackluster. Another, though, is because I think that 7-on-7 setting stresses the vision of a running back, or emphasizes it, I guess is the better word. And that's a weak point of Javonte Williams' game. That said, I do think it'll be interesting to watch him this camp go around, because is he gaining any development there? Because I think that might be necessary for him. And maybe it's not. Maybe we see him running this year and it's like, dang, he looks like pre-injury Javonte. Who cares if he develops the vision? But if that's not the case, he's going to have to develop that vision to be a consistent back in the NFL. And I do think that's something you can get a feel for in camp. P. Ryan, I don't have a rebuttal.
So I do have a question for you, Zach, in just a second about P. Ryan's contract. I do believe it was 2 years, $7.5, $3 million guaranteed. That would probably be the most saved amount. We have a question here from Maynard Staley asking, I haven't checked, but we probably shed the most cap cutting P. Ryan, correct? And I think that is I don't know what the laugh was about. Anyways,
out of the running backs, I think that would be right. Correct? Like that
Yes.
that'd be correct. Yeah.
Sorry, his profile picture is the Dennis Reynolds doll. I'll say that's what made me laugh. Bree, nothing to do with you. That just caught me
no,
off
I was
guard.
just trying to make. I was like, did I read a troll
No, you did
comment
great.
again? I've
No,
got
I'm sorry.
so many times.
It was a funny face I wasn't expecting.
No, it's all good. But also I have additions
it-
to that as well, because I want to hold on one second. I'm sorry. I just want to make sure that I get my thought process out with referring to pre-injury Javonte Williams, the idea is that we're in anticipation for that. I think that does a disservice as to who the player can be post-injury without looking towards, like I wish it was the past. And so I just wanted to point out that a lot of these running backs are on an even playing field because you're not anticipating a Javonte Williams returning to pre-injury form. You're looking for a different player with, like you said, you noted improved vision. You noted a lot of other strengths from other running backs. I saw a comment that I think they also keep 5 running backs. Big E says, do they move somebody to fullback? There's a lot of movement that can happen here. And I think the running back room is obviously on a more even playing field, but it goes in direct contention to what the perceived conversation that has been, and that's that Pirine is somehow the odd man out. And so I want to know why that's the case and not necessarily more of the general consensus, because I think as that continues to swirl around, somebody who was used so frequently in the previous offense, it seems weird that they would be outcasted for this upcoming season. So Zach, go ahead and carry on with what you were saying about that contract and how it involves. And then if you could maybe, I guess, clue me in as to why that would be the deed there.
Yeah, the contract's definitely the Maynard is right here on the contract. That is the one that would save them the most money. It's $3 million. I just looked it up. They have $3 million in cap savings with the Pirine cut. It's 1.9 with the Javonte cut. It's like 900,000 for a McLaughlin cut. And then I frankly didn't look up Blake Watson in time. But let me see really quick. That would be 500,000. I think that's all. Who am I missing? I got to be missing one of them. Maybe that's all. Maybe that's the 4. Am I estimate? They're not cutting estimate. We don't even have to entertain. So Pirine's the one that could save him the most money. I think that's part of the reason why this is a team that's going to be very cap strapped even next year. And finding $3 million in the couch cushions, which they can roll over into next season, that's pretty sweet. On the other hand, I think Pirine's a pretty useful player. But he does have a smaller niche. Like he's this receiving back, but he's not that dangerous a receiver. He's like a steady and reliable, like dump off player. I feel like if you have McLaughlin in this offense, you're primarily using him as the receiving back. The difference there is that Pirine's a much better pass protector. But like Estime was really good at pass protection coming out of Notre Dame. Javonte Williams, I think, is a solid pass protector, though not as good as Pirine. So the one thing Pirine really confidently brings to this roster over everyone is like pass protection ability, like all around ability on third downs, which I think you just probably live without and free up the $3 million. So I think that's the argument for getting rid of Pirine. It's like Javonte, if healthy, is a better carrier of the football. Estime projects to be a better carrier of the football, and McLaughlin's a more terrifying receiving threat. So I think that's where Pirine finds himself as the odd man out.
I think the difference, Zach, you did hit it on the head. But ultimately, the difference of because he's the best pass catching back on this out of all of these guys. I think I don't think it's necessarily close, and I also think he's the best blocking running back part of this group, and I don't think it's necessarily close. Where it becomes an issue is you do have guys though that are good at these things. They're just not as good as Pirine is. But where the big difference is Samaje Perine is downright just not very good at running the football. Like that's something that needs to be said. I think people expected him to come in and be Derrick Henry. That's really not Samaje Perine's game. He's going to run straight. He doesn't really, he might, he's going to fall forward. It's not like he's out there breaking a ton of tackles or anything like that. And every single other running back we listed can be good at catching the football, can be good at blocking, but they're a lot better in the running department. That's ultimately the difference in why he wouldn't make the team. Like he's a tell kind of even. If you run him, you're not really running him for a lot of yards. That's just something that's not really part of his game. He's a useful player. It's just the way the Broncos have their backfield right now, not very worth it. Now, I want to throw this out there. Why can't he play fullback? I know that's something that he wouldn't want to do. That was something I think he was drafted as a fullback and ended up working his way to running back. And even at Oklahoma, did play running back, but everyone expected him to be a fullback coming in. He's damn near an extra offensive lineman. He has great hands out of the backfield. If he wanted to make that switch, he could be Kyle Juszczyk-esque. He could be a fucking disgusting fullback if that's what you wanted to do.
And $3 million is pretty good motivation there. The Broncos can cut Burton fairly easily. Now, Pirine would be like the highest paid fullback in the NFL, or at least in the conversation for it. But, you can live with that. I think you have a good point about maybe how you could fit in there. Pirine versus Burton, maybe that's a battle to watch as well.
He could really be nasty there. The way he blocks and catches, it's that could be. Whew.
Every Joey, it's been a while since you caught me off guard with just your random stops where it's just dead stop. And you got me while I was trying to make a banner. Zach, every single episode surprises me with some player that he has like some unresolved, just flipping towards. And Burton.
What I say that was so mean about Michael Burton.
And we got him as he was muted too. So congratulations, Joey. Round of applause. And
wait, 1 second. We're getting the round of applause button going. We haven't done that.
You didn't say. Oh, that's what happens when we leave Joey in charge of the noise board. Zach, you didn't say anything too terribly bad. It just was we get rid of Burton, no problem, and just push, Pirine straight over, and it's fine. Everything's taken care of. You did answer my question beautifully, though, so I really appreciate it. It's a casualty of war, and sometimes it happens just the way that it happens. And if it saves some money, the Broncos are probably in a great position where that's going to make some sense. Joey, if you don't have anything else on the running back conversation, it is your turn to give us what you're most excited for as far as camp battles go for training camp. We're right around the corner.
Yes, I will save you my long soliloquy on running backs. My extra, I'm just kidding. I'll give you guys cornerback too. I think that one's really interesting. I think, like I was talking about earlier with the running backs in these positions, cornerback is a position I can really study in training camp. This is one where I think we will leave the training camp settings after training camp's all done, and I'll have a good answer on who cornerback 2 should be. So I'm excited to see that battle there. The Broncos have a slew of wide receivers that are going to challenge these guys, and it's in a battle between Levi Wallace, Riley Moss, Damari Mathis, and then don't even sleep on Chris Abrams-Drains. Like, I think this is a complete toss-up. I think any one of these guys can take this job. I don't really think the Broncos have a big favorite there. I think this one goes to who is the best. Who's going to be the best at the end of the day? Who pairs next to Patrick Surtain and McMillian as who the other outside cornerback? This one's really exciting for me. Now, here's the concern, right? Will Vance Joseph see it like everyone else does? Because for those that don't remember, the Broncos didn't start a lot of these defenders that pulled the defense around at the end, beginning of the season. So it's kind of concerning. Is Vance Joseph starting the right guys or not? Like, does he have an eye for talent? I think his drafts would kind of lead to you pointing no as well. It's a concern, but it's exciting nonetheless. Who's going to stand out between those guys? Honestly, I'm hoping it's Riley Moss. I'm really, really hoping it's Riley Moss. They traded up to get him, and he should pair well there. I want the Broncos to hit on a draft pick there as well. Broncos have all the incentive in the world to make that one work, so I hope it's him.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think Riley Moss is the ideal one because of how much they invested in him. And this is going to be a very interesting one to watch, one that I think we will get a fairly good read on at camp. And I could see it going a lot of different ways. Like Riley Moss easily could see him winning. We also really haven't seen him play a lot of cornerback, like even in training camp last year because of his whole sports hernia thing. So we really haven't seen much of Riley Moss NFL cornerback. same thing we said about Alex Forsythe rings true here. Possible he just like can't cut it, or he's getting outplayed by everyone. Damari Mathis, I thought he was pretty promising as a rookie. Definitely had some downs, but overall, I thought it was a pretty promising rookie year. Last year, I was looking this up for my article because I talked about how cornerbacks may be the most important battle. Again, link down below in the description. But Damari Mathis ranked 112 out of 113 qualifying cornerbacks. I think it was 300 coverage snaps was the number I used. But 112 out of 113 in terms of coverage grade and in terms of passer rating allowed when targeted. So he was it was like an 137 passer rating when targeted. So he was absolutely dreadful. And then Levi Wallace, who's maybe the like safe veteran safety option there, like as we've talked about Sam Mustafa. He's not great either. He ranked like 75th in those same stats. So he's not one I think you necessarily want to be throwing back there and relying on heavily. So I agree. It's going to be a very interesting one. Hopefully Riley Moss wins it. I think it's also so huge because I think this could determine what the Broncos defense is this year. I think they got incredibly lucky with like Fabian Moreau holding down the fort for 10 games. But I think it's fair to have some questions about how good is this Broncos defense going to be at creating pressure. Last year, they were 30th in pass rush win rate. I think that'll improve some, but I don't think they're going to be like a top 10 pass rush unit all of a sudden. They've been predicated on their elite secondary talent, which was true when you had Simmons and Surtain and even McMillan come in last year. Now you're down Simmons. So you're going to have a little less help on the back end. And I wonder if opposing quarterbacks just feast on whoever that other guy is. You as an offense can dictate, I don't want to throw at Patrick Surtain. I don't want to throw at Jaquan McMillan. Those guys are really good. I want to throw at whoever the third guy is. That's why cornerback is a position group that's often defined by its weakest link instead of its best player. So I don't know. That's just something I'm concerned about here. But it's absolutely one to watch. I agree.
I'm glad that you brought that up, Zach, because if Riley Moss, and it is a big if, doesn't pan out the way that the Broncos necessarily need him to, the start decline on the depth of that secondary starts to show up a little bit more because you have a massive fall off from what you have at Patrick Surtain. So I want Joe, you to touch on it as well, but how do the Broncos, I guess, make up that necessity there, given you obviously want a little bit more of a sure thing when it comes to depth at cornerback? You can never have too many of them, but right now it feels like we don't know enough about that super raw and young talent, or we've seen a little bit and we need that play to improve. Are you as concerned as Zach is with how that'll represent the defense as a whole going into 2024?
Yeah, I think they have so many options here, Bree, that ones should work out. If Levi Wallace, Riley Moss, Damari Mathis, and Abrams Drain all look bad, like that's
Quentin Newsome, Tremont Smith.
Yeah, like I just think they have a slew of younger guys, and then even a vet added in there. That I mean, it's definitely not out of the realm of possibility that cornerback 2 is an issue the entire year, especially if injuries start to add up and different things like that. But man, you would really hope one of these guys is at least like, oh yeah, he can play. Like, I'm not asking for them to be a star. I'm asking for him to be a starter. And I think there's a difference, even maybe below average at cornerback 2 starter. Like, I'm just looking for you to be passable out there for the Broncos this year. And I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. Like, I could see Damari Mathis have a bounce back year. I could see Levi Wallace look better than he did last year, especially with the cornerback like Patrick Surtain playing the other side. Yeah, I could see these things happen. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time ever a rookie cornerback played good. Like there are possibilities here. The Broncos have a lot of them. So I'm hoping it all kind of works its way out. The depth definitely would be scary after that, though. I'm not going to bank on 2 of those guys all of a sudden being really good. That would be a little more sketchy for me.
God damn it. I think it's well within the realm of possibility that one of these guys pops. I fully agree there. It's just, I think it's also very well within the realm of possibility that none of them do. You know, like Damari Mathis totally could bounce back. I feel like one of the bigger Damari Mathis believers, but again, one of the very worst cornerbacks to play as much. Oh, and it was 250 snaps. But like among cornerbacks with 250 snaps, one of the very worst in the league last year. Wouldn't be crazy if that kind of maintained. Wouldn't be crazy if Riley Moss just like is a missed third round pick. That happens. And then I do wonder what you have behind that. Like, yes, Levi Wallace easily could return to the mean. He also was one of just 9 cornerbacks to allow 7 touchdowns last year. He got roasted a good bit. So
it won't be the first time we've seen that happen where a cornerback had a bad year and then had a bounce back year, though, especially based on the wide receivers you play. One bad game could really F up some stats for you even. I'm not saying he didn't have a bad year because he did, but like I could definitely see him be passable this next year is all I'm saying.
I fully agree. I'm just saying I think the range of outcomes at cornerback 2, I think, is very wide for the Denver Broncos. I think the floor is pretty dang low. And if Riley Moss came in and was like a good starter, like just like you were saying, just like a solid, good player, like a 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10 corner, that wouldn't really shock me all that much. And in that case, they're pretty solid at cornerback. I think the range of outcomes is wide there.
Real quick, I want to do a lightning round with Samuel Castro's question here. Is there any free agent out there that could interest the Broncos for the secondary depth? And do you think they'd make a move on it? Because, Zach, to your point, it's there. I don't think they necessarily would. Biggie's saying Justin Simmons. I think that's out of the equation now as we're sitting here pretty, but never say never. But do you guys have somebody on the top of how did I do that you'd want them to consider before the season starts?
I think their free agent signing was Levi Wallace. I think that if someone else piqued their interest, they would have signed him. I think the Broncos think Levi Wallace can be the vet in this room and be successful at doing it. I don't foresee them signing another cornerback to compete there. Unfortunately, Levi Wallace is that guy. Before the Levi Wallace signing, I might have a take here, but unfortunately, Samuel, that just is what it is. We'll see what happens there.
Yeah, I just think, Levi Wallace, I think it's a fair point. Or I fully agree. I don't think they're going to add another veteran. I'm sorry. I don't think they're going to add another veteran. I agree with you on Levi Wallace. But like, are there options out there that are intriguing? I think absolutely. Justin Simmons, of course, that reunion would be nice. Though I think the Broncos are pretty stacked at safety. It didn't come up in our go around here, but my number 2 pick in terms of like which one I'm most excited for would be like the back end of that safety room battle. Like, what does Caden Stearns look like? What does JL Skinner look like? I think are 2 really interesting questions. And then you're going to stack them up against the known commodity in DTY. I think that's going to be really interesting. And just also, I think they're all solid players. So I think in terms of like the quality of the battle, it should be good. So that'd be, I think, the reason why maybe you don't even have to add Justin Simmons at cornerback, though. Like, I would be very interested in an Adoree Jackson or a Stephon Gilmore. I imagine both are going to want some decent money, so it's probably out of the Broncos' price range. But those would be options that I'd feel a lot more comfortable with them as your insurance plans, as opposed to Levi Wallace. That said, like Joey said, I think it's very unlikely either of those additions happen.
Yeah, no, I think we're on the same page. Yeah, maybe I would have preferred them to somebody else. I just don't think it's realistic anymore.
It's not. I'm getting into fights with the chat now, so we know we've gone on long enough. Yeah, going over to letstalkbroncos.com. Check out if you feel like we left somebody off, it's because we did. And Zach covers that extensively over on letstalkbroncos.com. You can read his article over there, as well as from our contributors from Let's Talk Broncos, ramping up again as we head into the season. It'll be fantastic to note that we'll have articles just about every day as we get back into the swing of things. Summer's been weird, y'all, and I'm excited to see how this all plays out. Football's right around the corner, and it's like it never left. We'll be back, and also we're chasing that 2,000 subscriber count still. You guys got us up there quite a bit, but we're just a couple of hundred off. If you can go ahead and help us out, share it with your grandma. See if you can access her YouTube account. Sign up. Don't hit the bell. It'll confuse her. And hit the thumbs up. I love that, Biggie. Thank you for doing my job for me, as apparently I am trash. We appreciate you. We'll be back on Wednesday for more Let's Talk Broncos. We appreciate you and have a great evening.